Hi, my name is Jeff Langan. I taught for 12 years at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. My specialty is political philosophy and geopolitics. I would like to speak to you today about Russia, because obviously we're in the midst of a potential crisis with Russia, and I just thought it could be interesting for us to have a little bit of a historical background to understand where Russia is right now in the world, and also to understand that Russia in 2015 is not Russia in 1985. For many of us who grew up before 1989, we remember Russia as being the Soviet Union. There was a revolution in Russia in 1917. The fruit of this revolution was the establishment of the Soviet Union, perhaps the first, or certainly the most powerful and the most important communist regime in the history of the world. In 1989, between 1989 and 1992, the Soviet Union fell apart. And the Soviets themselves realized, the Russians themselves realized, that communism was no longer a feasible option for Russia. In the early 1990s, Boris Yeltsin took the helm of the newly minted, you might say, Russia. And he ran Russia from the early 1990s until 1999. During the years in which he ran Russia, chaos tended to grow. There were a number of oligarchs that benefited, you might say, from the privatization of the Russian economy, but at the same time, these oligarchs began to build up their own private armies. By the time that Yeltsin left power in 1998, 1999, Russia was on the verge of civil war. The KGB, now the FSB, was deeply concerned that Russia was going to become a chaotic country and it was going to fall into anarchy. In many cities in Russia, there were between 5 and 6 gangs competing with each other for maintaining order in the city, for the different kinds of criminal activities that gangs get involved in, and also for controlling the economy of the various cities in Russia. These gangs oftentimes worked for various oligarchs. The FSB decided that Yeltsin had to go. And in their place, in Yeltsin's place, they wanted to put somebody that was more strongly Russian, that was more strongly pro-traditional Russian values. From what I can gather, Vladimir Putin, was actually a compromise candidate. Putin tried to promise the FSB that at the same time that he could remain open to Western Europe, he could defend and preserve traditional Russian values. When Putin came to power, he kicked out a number of the oligarchs. Several of them went to London where they bought soccer teams. Other oligarchs he put in jail. In many cities, he reduced the criminal gangs from 5 or 6 criminal gangs to 1. Clearly an improvement, though not a perfect society. And then, following the advice of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Putin tried to implement what Alexis de Tocqueville spoke about, what would be necessary in Europe, which was a gradual introduction of republican institutions. Alexis de Tocqueville thought that this process of introducing republican institutions in European societies would not imitate what happened in the United States. Instead, it would take generations, maybe centuries, to undo the institutions that were already in place and to replace them with republican institutions. From the year 2000 until now, Vladimir Putin has been attempting to strengthen ties with Western Europe while gaining control of Russia's natural resources, in the hopes that Russia over time could lay the foundation for developing republican institutions, not unlike the way Alexis de Tocqueville thought European countries should do so. Thank you.